Welcome to In the Spotlight and welcome to 2013. 2012 was an exciting year for artists in the Plus. We started in the Spotlight, we started concerts in the Plus, and we had a lot of exciting shows. We're all excited about the Artists in the Plus Music Festival, and we got some big plans for 2013. This is our first show, and we're excited to have Lisa Marshall here with us. And Lisa, how are you doing tonight?
Fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing good, and you brought the blonde with you tonight.
I did bring her. She kind of was just hanging out, so.
We were just having a little laugh when we came on air because I was doing some research today, and I remember reading that that was her name, and it was kind of funny that you mentioned that right before we went live.
Yeah, she she gets thrown under the bus a lot.
So, Lisa, what are some of your earliest memories of music? I mean, what do you remember as a kid growing up?
Oh, we lived on the Chesapeake Bay in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Like literally right across the street where there was sand dunes, and so there was sand in the carpet. When you walked, it sounded like a giant beanbag. And my parents were quite young, and my dad had a record player and just hundreds of albums. So Crosby, Stills and Nash, Janis Joplin, you name it was on there. My mom loved Motown, so she loved the Four Tops and the Supremes. And I just remember there wasn't a lot of TV going on. There was just a lot of playing the record player, rather loudly, I must say, which is pretty cool.
Okay, and you've actually played all over. You played in Nashville, Los Angeles, Austin, and those are like three really big places for music. And I want to put you on the spot. Out of those three, what has been your favorite?
Oh, I have to say Austin, hands down. Yeah, Austin's the best city for music that I've been in. I mean, that's actually afforded me to live and make a living playing music. And the musicianship here is just so incredible. And there's some competition, but there's a lot of camaraderie here too. And people are always willing to help if you find the right people. And they just really take you in. And, I can show up. There's a place called the Gallery down the street from me by the Continental Club. And I can show up on a Wednesday night. It's a New Orleans funk band, and the drummer will pull me up there, and we'll just make up songs, and we just have the best time. It's just by far one of the coolest cities, I think.
Okay, and what was it? You actually played some pretty famous places in Nashville also when you were there. What was that like?
The Bluebird Cafe, that was the only famous place I think that I know of that we played at, but that was amazing. It's a little tiny place, 75 people capacity, and the rules are very strict there. It's a showcasing place. There is no talking. There's no looking at your phone. There is no texting. They will ask you to leave, seriously. And there's always a line around the building, and people will stay in case somebody gets thrown out, because inevitably somebody will, and they will invite somebody else in to take their place. So I traveled with these three ladies who dubbed themselves the Dirty Girls, and they were raunchy, awesome, hilarious, wild women. And, these women are like, between all of them, the two of them have played, one of them had played Vegas with her brother and her sister from the time she was in her teens, and they've done some pretty amazing things. And we got up there, and as soon as we hit the stage, the entire place just went silent. And it made us so unnerved at first that we just kind of froze and stared at each other like, what do we do? Oh, play music. Okay, play music. It was pretty cool. I also saw a little side note, because it's one of my favorite experiences at the Bluebird Cafe. That particular week, I was touring, and I stuck around for a songwriters conference called Tin Pan Alley. And Jim Weatherly, who wrote Midnight Train to Georgia, and Neither One of Us Wants to Be the First to Say Goodbye, who Gladys Knight, of course, recorded, was there. And I love those songs, and I love his songwriting, and I saw that he was going to be at the Bluebird Cafe. with 3 other songwriters. So here was this intimate setting, like they were 4 of them in the middle of the Bluebird Cafe, and we were all sitting around them and got to hear the stories behind the songs and such. Well, as the night rolls on, one of his buddies is kind of, messing with him, saying, "You're not leaving until you do that song." And he's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." And of course, everybody in the place is just, you can feel just like, "Come on, do the song." So he starts out with Midnight Train to Georgia, and it's Nashville, and it's a songwriters conference, and there are tons of musicians in there, and it's all we can do to not start singing the Pips, because we're afraid we're going to get kicked out, right? Because it's a very strict no talking policy in the Bluebird Cafe. By the end of the song, couldn't help ourselves. It was so much fun. Everybody was singing at the top of their lungs, backing them up with the Pips in harmony. It was awesome.
Yeah, that does sound like a lot of fun. Well, speaking of singing, did you want to sing us a song, and then I'll open it up for the Hangout to ask you a few questions?
Sure, would love to. I think I might kind of do a slight variation on a song called "Hold Me." Hold me, I could get used to always being in your arms. You're showing me a new way. Just let go and embrace the dawn. Oh, my love, my love, my love, my love. Like it feels so bitter, sometimes it's so sweet. Oh, yes, it is. But in the dark, well, it's just you and me. Taking our time, leaving our minds to feel so free. Living our dreams, in reality, everything's fine. Hoping, growing, so much joy today. Fill me up, my sweet, sweet love. This hour, I question everything, bringing me fear, holding me down. For love, for our joy. People call us no good, feeling us and misunderstood. But we know it's just a matter of time. No more being blind. Because don't need I say, help me. This world is beautiful, I believe. I'm standing in the light. I'm falling, I can see the ground. I don't care, this moment is all I need. For joy, for love. Don't you know we're standing in love? Don't you know we're standing in love? For joy, for love. Thank you.
So that sounded amazing.
Thank you so much.
I did forget to remind you to put it in studio mode, but you still sounded amazing.
Oh, good. Well, I thought I had. Let me double check that.
She may be.
You may have
Yeah,
been, yeah.
I am.
Okay.
Is there anything else I need to do?
Oh no, no, it sounded great. I just forgot to remind you like I normally do, so I wanted to make sure.
Oh, you know what? Is that a little bit better? How is that?
No, it's not better. It's worse.
Okay.
I think there's more background noise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right, how about
Okay.
that?
Now, did anybody in the Hangout have a question for Lisa before we move on?
I got a question.
James?
Yes. Lisa.
Mr. Almost.
So you are the epitome of soul and passion, undeniably.
Okay, thank you.
Hands down. Yes. So my question to you is, where do you draw that from? What is the well of sound and emotion that you draw all this passion and energy and soul from?
Soul music, early R&B, my absolute favorite music in the entire world. It just it electrifies me every time I hear it, and especially a lot of the women of early soul and R&B, and quite a few obscure ones too that didn't really get the recognition, like the Aretha Franklins and Gladys Knight and Mavis Staples. But I've seen Gladys and Aretha and Mavis in concert, and all three of those ladies just deliver. It's just beautiful. I mean, it's as much as being moved by their records, even seeing them live, of course it's even more so. But I don't know, I love the passion of that music. I love that they were just really speaking out and with their voices, like they were. It might have been something about heartbreak or I lost my man kind of thing, but you could like, you could you could sit in a room and drink wine with her,
Right.
Just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And when they were happy and gospel music and such, love it. I love it.
Sure. Well, you mirror them, and it's not like this exact replica. It's you are your own. You're your own, soul and spirit, and that type of soulful energy is definitely just reaches out and grabs you and just makes you smile and makes you think and makes you ponder and makes you, whatever mood you're in, it either, escalates it or it sets you aside and just kind of, you take inventory. And so, as another musician to another, just thank you for that. Thank you for the inspiration.
Wow, you almost made me cry. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Okay, were there any other questions for Lisa?
I have one.
Okay, Sarah?
First of all, you have a phenomenal voice. I'm absolutely in love with your voice.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. I know that you said that your parents had a lot of records and played a lot of music and things like that, and that you remember that growing up. Was your family a musical family, as in were they musicians or just lovers of music? Was it a big surprise when you opened your mouth and that voice came out, or was it kind of expected that you would be as musically talented as you clearly are?
Well, that's very kind. Thank you. No, none of my parents are musicians. My mother took piano when she was little because she was made to. She hated it. But no, and I don't think they, later as they would come see me sing, they were just like, what? They were kind of like, had no idea, I guess, too. I mean, I remember, my mom and my dad actually being at a show together, and just not too long ago when the first time I ever played in my hometown, and they were just like, "What have you been studying? What have you been doing?" You know, like I don't know, yelling a lot, I guess.
Well, so with that in mind, then, as you were developing your skill and your talent, what was your main driving factor in that? Was it just that love within yourself, or did you have another support group also that kind of kept you interested and kept you working with the music that you do, or was it just purely yourself?
I think, you know, when I moved to when I was 21 in California, and I, you know, fall into this band, and all of a sudden I'm co-writing songs, and we were more like kind of the early British rockers, you know, that infused a lot of R&B into rock and roll, like, you know, Humble Pie and Small Faces, that kind of stuff, early Stones. And I think, you know, first it was just kind of like, of course I've always loved music. I mean, I've always been kind of, it's the one thing that I can remember. I can pick out, and as a matter of fact, we used to play this game in a restaurant I worked at. The Christmas carols would come on, and we'd pick out who the vocalist was, and we'd have this game going on all day long, and I would just kick everybody's asses because I just absolute geek out love for music. I always have. I do since I was little. Like, I wanted to know who was the producer, and what else did he produce, and who was the drummer, and, you know, things like that. But I think at first it was just like I couldn't believe I was on these stages playing music, and then it became slowly a challenge for me, I think, to make my voice better or to control it better, if that makes any sense, and to push myself. But always I think it was just for the pure love and joy of music and and singing. I just love it so much. I just, you know, like, just would seriously sometimes lose my mind.
Well, I'm definitely glad that you stuck with it and pushed yourself to do it, because this is the first time that I've had the opportunity to hear you, and I am very, very much in love with and in awe of your voice. Really enjoying it.
Thank you so very much. Thank you. That will keep me going for a long time. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Okay,
Hey,
any
Lisa.
others?
Yes, I'd love to ask just one question, John, if I could.
Okay, go ahead.
Hey, Lisa, I really enjoyed that.
Thanks,
I'm
Paul.
always a bit curious to know, like, when an artist, what age and what was the first kind of music that you actually, like, remembered, and or the song even, like, what kind of really kind of lit your bulb, sort of thing. Yeah.
I was in second grade. It was Cowgirl in the Sand, Crosby, Stills, and Nash on the Four-Way Street album.
Wow.
And I fell in love immediately and knew that was it. That's what I have to do.
Cool. I was just that's all I wanted to ask. I often ask that question. I was asked it once, and I had to really dig deep. So, yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I've actually got a question, if it's okay to ask one or something like that.
Hello.
Hello.
Go ahead, Cecily.
Well, I was wondering, how long have you been writing music for? Because I know for me, I've kind of been writing stuff ever since I was a kid, but taking it seriously only in the last couple of years. But how long have you been writing music? Like, when did you write your first song and that kind of stuff?
I believe I was about 23, 24-ish when I got in a first original band, and I really, I got in a guitar when I was 21, kind of messed with it, set it aside as I do things, and it doesn't come easily. I'm like, this sucks, and my fingers hurt. So, yeah.
I've been the same thing, kind of, with guitar.
Yeah. Yeah, and still I'm only a rhythm player. I'm like trying to make myself get out of that box and learn some licks. But yeah, it's been a good 20 years that I've been writing music, and I'm an incredibly slow songwriter. My lyrics are challenging for me. I just, you know, I can write in a kind of poetic flow, I suppose, but to put things into kind of lyrics that I feel like are one that I can, I don't know, relate with other people with, I guess, if that makes any sense.
Oh, yeah.
It's hugely challenging for me. But so now I'm trying to make myself, one thing I have not done for a long time was sit down and really discipline myself to sit down and take an hour every day to play or write. And so that's been it's been interesting, because often, for instance, that last song that I played, I kept messing with that song for, I don't know, months, and I thought, this is a crappy song. You know? I was like, I'm gonna walk away from it. And then I presented it to the band, and the band was like, oh my God, we love this. And I was like, okay, well, maybe there's something to the simplicity of keeping things simple. You know, those chord changes are rather simple. You know, it's just a bit of arranging a little bit, and that's... So I've been trying to kind of keep that mentality and keep it simple, and then try to build on that.
Well, and actually, I mean, a lot of old songs, I mean, even from the 60s, the 50s and 60s, I mean, they had pretty simple chord progressions.
Yeah, so, incredibly simple, you're right.
I mean, even I was listening to something the other day where I think it was a Supreme song that had exactly the same chord progression as one of another 60s song. I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but yeah, it had the exact same chord progression, and it's so simple. So I think there is something to kind of keeping it simple.
Yeah, there really is. I mean, sometimes I think I see other guitar players or I see other writers, and they're using these really cool chords, and I'm like, dude, that's so cool. I wish I could do that. Then, but then when it comes down, to me, my favorite thing is melody, is vocal melody, and being able to, I guess, move around on top of it a little bit. So the simpler the better for me. Yeah, cool. And you're writing still?
Oh yeah, actually, I write novels as well as book, as well as songs and all that. So
wow!
I know what you mean about writing every day. In fact, my husband and I both want to be writers. And we've actually, like the last year or so, we make sure to write at least 1,000 words a day. And if it takes some getting used to, But once you get going, it's like
1,000 words a day is huge.
It's actually,
I can't write 4 words a day.
I type pretty quickly, and my husband's getting there. But it sounds daunting, like, oh my God, 1,000 words a day. But then once you get going with it, it's like, oh wow, I already hit 1,000. Oh, okay, well, I could have kept going there.
That's pretty cool. That's a
long song.
That's for like novels and stuff. I would never write a 1,000 word song. Oh God, no.
Hey man, Stairway to Heaven's got to be close. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, then it would just become poetry.
I love it when I'm at bars or whatever playing, and somebody decides to be a smartass and yells at "Stairway to Heaven." I'm still pretty convinced that I'm gonna learn the entire song. I'm going to learn the long version of the song. And then next time somebody says Stairway to Heaven, I am not stopping until a half hour later. But only I'm going to do it really soul and really slow. So it's really torture.
Stairway to Heaven, the slow version. There's
it's either Stairway to Heaven or Free Fall.
On a loop.
Free falling.
Free falling?
I love that song.
That's the big request. Free fall.
You mean Free Bird?
Free Bird. I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't know.
Free Bird.
Yeah, Free Bird.
Yeah, I was thinking. Wait a minute. Shouldn't it be Free Bird? The guy that yells out in the audience, Free Bird.
Free falling.
I'm muting my mic now. We need another song from Lisa. I think that's what we need.
Free Bird from me. They just get the free bird.
There you go.
Just kidding.
I think we need another song from Lisa, and then we'll talk about Lisa's a couple of Lisa's albums after she does another song for us.
Sweet. I would be happy to. Are there any requests by chance? No? Well, since we were talking about growing up on the Chesapeake Bay and such, that was really one of the best times I ever had in my life. I was 6 through 10 when we lived there. And it was just a bunch of hippies. Like, seriously, a bunch of long-haired dudes walking around in cut-off jean shorts and barefoot and catamarans and nightly volleyball games and beer lined up along the little wall up against the sand, so when we were kids we could all sneak sips. But I loved it so much, and so I wrote this song called Hot Summer Day.
Don't you want to feel this day? Love will take us higher. No need to pass us by when there's so little required. Oh, 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 oh. Let go of your mind. Just let your heart fall in love with one another. Well, it's time, yeah. Let your light shine through. All through the silence. Some days it's easier to imagine a world of peace and happiness. Ooh, come on over. It's nice to see you again. It's good to be here where you are in our shining place in the sand.
Thank you.
Great. Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Loving that one. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So Lisa, in 2008, your first solo album, Simple, came out, and it's actually still getting a lot of airplay in Europe. Is that correct?
As far as I know, yes. Maybe not so much anymore. I haven't really kept up with it in the last year or so, especially trying to do this last album.
Okay, and how long did you work on that album?
That first album in 2008? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Well, that was, I did all on my own on GarageBand, so that took me over, I think it took me a year if I'm not mistaken. I just kind of started laying down some guitar lines and vocal lines and would get the backup parts, and then I just started sitting down with like wah-wah pedals. I had no idea how to work a wah-wah pedal. It was crazy. And different guitars, and I started messing around with a keyboard, and had a friend record some drums, and I had another friend do some of the bass work on a couple of the songs, and I played bass on a few songs. So that was a completely like learning curve. How do you record yourself? How do you write these kind of songs? How do I add layers and strings and arrange stuff, and that took a while. Yeah.
Okay, but it was probably a good learning experience for you then.
Oh, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And you know the kind of rough part about it is right about the middle of it, I would say, my 14-year relationship ended, and I had to move out, and so I ended up living in this apartment in the University District in Seattle, and the houses are pretty old there, and I was in a bottom apartment, and so literally I could hear their cats running across the floor above me, and you know, going through that kind of breakup and stuff, it was a little hard to kind of push on, but the reason I took this apartment was because it had this extra little room in the hallway, and I just padded it with soundproofing. So it was the only sane place to be in the whole apartment, which was good because it just kept me working towards the album. So, and I actually recorded the vocals to Bring Yourself Back, which was all about that breakup.
Okay, and would you advise artists to take a more hands-on approach when they're first starting so that they do have a respect and so that they do learn more about what goes into making an album like that?
That's a good question. I think it depends on what kind of person you are and what kind of artist you want to be. I mean, yeah, I'd probably end up re-recording a lot of those songs just because the recording quality wasn't that great, but I felt like the mood and the vibe was right on. So that's still kind of a strange balance for me to figure out, to go into like a professional studio to have it sound very, you know, good and clear yet cohesive, but capture that vibe. I think it just depends. I mean, I just kind of, you know, I kind of geek out on this stuff a little bit. So, and I'm kind of a hard-headed, you know, I'm going to do it myself kind of person, you know, and, you know, I am an independent musician, and I have never, I won't say never, I have knocked on some of the doors for some of the major record labels and management and such, but I never really hardcore pursued it because I don't think it was completely in my heart to do so. You know, I just don't, maybe my perception is off about the industry. Maybe there are some great people that really do support artists and let them kind of do their art and create and do what they're supposed to do and help them develop that, you know, versus my kind of perception of, well, you have to be able to, you know, you have to sell so many records the first couple albums and then you can kind of go in and tell them, well, this is what I'm doing. You know, I don't know. At this point, anyway, I'm not really looking to pursue that in my career.
Okay, and last October, Stay Right Here, you released a new album.
Yeah.
And how different was that for you?
Well, that was different because I actually went in with a band. So I had a 4-piece band at the time, and we went in and we multi-tracked all the basic tracks, basically. So drums, bass, my rhythm guitar, and my guitar player's lead guitar, which is scratch vocals, obviously because I had a guitar in the room with me, so I couldn't really use the vocal track. And it was a studio that my guitar player had picked out because he's been in this area for about 30 years and he knew a lot of people. And a really great guy, Spencer Starnes, he's, you know, works with Sleep at the Wheel and has won Grammys with them, and he's a phenomenal bass player. But I wasn't, I don't think he was on the same page as far as the kind of sound I was trying to capture on those instruments and what kind of record I was trying to make. So I ended up leaving there, getting those tracks and porting them into GarageBand, and I just started redoing my lead parts or my rhythm parts, coming up with some more bit guitar parts that were kind of counter melodies but repetitive in the song, I guess. I arranged the strings, did all the background vocals here, right here, with this little microphone, and then eventually went to another studio, Kelly Connolly, who is Eric Johnson's engineer. And how I met him was a friend of mine was recording an album. She asked me to come do some backing vocals on the album, and I loved the way he recorded her vocals so much. I was like, I'm coming to you to record my vocals. And we ended up getting along so well, and I loved what he did so much that, you know, he mixed and he mastered the album there as well. So, but to fast forward to the next album, I think what I would do is I'm going to give it a whirl to let somebody else take care of the particulars, like what musicians to bring in. You know, I'm going to write the songs, go in, we're going to have a few days of pre-production, and then we're going to go in and record them. Instead of, you know, letting everybody just kind of be, not willy-nilly, that's not the word I'm really looking for, but, you know, to me, when you write a song, you kind of, you know, when you're doing original stuff, I really like to have the opportunity and the time with people to, like, let them really dig into their parts and really challenge themselves, you know. And the band did that to an extent, but to an extent, you know, they're also working musicians, which means they play in a lot of other bands, so time becomes an issue. Did I answer your question?
Mm-hmm. Okay, did anybody else have a question?
I just thought that was interesting, what you were saying about how people another artist needs the time to absorb the material. I can understand what you mean by that, and why you would want to spend that, you know, just get... Would you just go in with the song, your guitar parts, and your vocals, and then just sort of say, this is how I want it, you know, this... Do you still want to, you know, say, oh, that's the sort of bass I want in it, or would you leave that to the artist?
No, you're right. I probably would come in and say, no, that's not it. This is what I hear, and probably be able to at least hum it to them, because, yeah, no, you're right about that. Because, you know, I do kind of hear almost the completion of the song most of the time once I've written it. You know, once I get down and really start rolling with it, I'm like, oh, and this has to happen, and this, you know, here's the bit, here's the lick, you know.
Yeah.
So, but sometimes they go, what if we did this? What if we flipped this? What if, you know?
And you're like, no.
Yeah.
or it
know,
might work, you know.
Exactly. Yeah, you never know. I mean, I certainly feel that the musicians that I worked with on this last album, we played together for 2 years, and I really think they took the songs and just made them excellent, you know. But now I'm working with another rhythm section, and the bass players are already kind of taking those bass lines and doing them slightly different, and I really love what he's doing with it, because it's really getting the grit and the punch and the movement of the song.
And probably bringing new life into it, giving it another, you know, edge or something. Yeah.
Yeah. The last band everybody was more influenced, like my old bass player, she was getting more into the psychedelic rock stuff, you know, and drummer was thinking Rolling Stones, and I was just like, oh, no. Wrong direction, everybody. Back.
Cool.
Come on.
Yeah.
Did anybody else have a quick question for Lisa?
Yeah, I have a quick question.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh,
Hey.
no, it's okay. Hi there, it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I was just kind of curious. I saw on your page that you're kind of new to Google Plus, and I was just kind of curious what your experiences were so far. You know, and what kind of role you saw, you know, social networking and your online presence kind of playing in your musical journey.
Oh, great question, because it's really something that I really want to really wrap my head around a lot better and learn about more, because I really feel like it's such a great platform and such a great way to kind of to go internationally and meet people, if you will. You know, like there's relationships to be formed that aren't just here in your kind of own backyard, although I'm not ignoring that either. But it still sometimes feels like, to me, like I'm just throwing pennies into a well. Like, did that go in there? Where's that going? You know, like, so I'm still kind of trying to figure that out. But I would really love to kind of, you know, get my head around it so I could really understand it and really kind of be intelligent with it, I guess, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
Yeah. That's all I got.
That works.
And I'm sure there's a lot of people here that help you get used to everything around here. Also, Lisa, we're all very happy to have you here.
Well, thank you, and I really appreciate, John, you doing this and having me this evening, and all of you being here tonight. Thank you so very much.
Okay. Now, Lisa, you talked earlier about your songwriting and how sometimes the lyrics take you a while, so I'm sure I know the answer to this next question, but people always ask what comes first, the music or the lyrics. And also, where does your inspiration when you write the songs come from? Is a lot of it real life, or is most of it made up, or where do you get your ideas for songs?
Chicken or the egg? It happens different ways. It's weird. It's like this feeling I get. Like I just know it's happening. Something's happening. I'm about to have a complete thought, as it were, instead of just writing some lines or having a couple of chord progressions together or something. It comes from real life. It comes from a spirituality, a desire to, hopefully connect with people and take people in a good place, and therefore in a kind of spiritual, metaphysical way, maybe, lifting the vibrations of a bigger idea, as it were. I feel like, I don't know, I feel like music certainly does change me. I mean, Mavis Staples changed my life when I saw her about 7 or 8 years ago in Seattle. And I knew that I was seeing an angel. I mean, I've never seen such light and love pour out of a person in my life. And I know I could look around that room and everybody was just in the same kind of stunned brilliance and just letting themselves be lifted. And it was absolutely breathtaking and beautiful, and people, you could see people with tears. Myself, by the third song in, I was crying. She was doing a tribute to Mahalia Jackson, and I'm not really even that familiar with a lot of gospel music, but she changed my life that day. And I realized that I have choices and I have an option, and I just want to do something good. Just want to do something good for the world. I would love to see things change in the world and people change in the world and actually have some peace, within ourselves and with each other. That's my dorky.
Well, no, I think music really has that power to help people through a lot of situations and really help them relate to exactly what they're feeling at any particular moment. It's a very powerful thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and all the people who have fought for their equality and their freedoms and done it in such a beautiful, peaceful, loving way. I mean, that's cool, man. I think about my struggles, and I think, people like Billie Holiday had to go through the back door all the time to go play somewhere, or even Mavis Staples in her younger years. I mean, what the hell do I got to bitch about? Be grateful, show up, and do your thing.
Well, Lisa, we still have time for a couple more songs. If you want to do a couple songs to end the show, we can do that.
Sure, we'd love to. I think what I would like to do... There's a little kind of Delta Blues influence song that I picked up from Miss Memphis Minnie. And I just named it Swamp Song. I might need help in titles, too. I don't know. Just give me a second. The blonde is very temperamental. No offense, blonde people.
Love a woman was my crime. Hold your tongue, your judgment time. If I'm leaving, lift me up. I got my voice, gonna raise it up. Oh yeah, I'm gonna raise it up. Ooh, hell no, I'm gonna raise it up. Well, I'm going down this time, and I'm gonna find out when it up and spine. Been my bitch, you can't bend my soul. Got no shame pulling in my hole. Oh, yeah, in my hole. You got to love somebody, 'cause no one gets out alive. Oh, no, ooh, no, oh, no, no. There is on your mind, all the bad that's been done to you, all the good things you are. Oh, better, you better let it shine. Here's my silver, my health is gone. Got no time for the lies been slow. Heal my skin where the shore is mine. Set my well, that drink is time. Oh yeah, my drink is time. You got to love somebody, 'cause no one gets out around. Oh yeah, no, no, they no. Ooh, no, no. There is some your mind, all the pain has been done to you, all the good things you are. Oh man, you better let it shine. Heal my skin, boy, it sure is mine. Got time for the lies that's telling me, but I can't question. Say I can't question. Say I can't question. I got to know, hey, what's my love? You know I really got no time for the lies that's telling me. Oh no, ooh, oh no. On my mind, on the way that's been done to me, all the good things I hate. Oh, you know how I'm gonna let it shine. Drinking up, rising up, got my voice gonna raise it up. Drinking up, rising up, got my voice gonna raise it up. Gonna raise it up. It's gonna raise it up. And I raise it up.
Beautiful. So good.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Man, that was so good.
Thank you so much. Am I just doing another song?
You have time to do one more if you want. just have about 3 minutes left if you want to finish us out with a song, and then we'll let everybody know where they can get your music from.
Sweet. All right. I'll play the first love song I ever wrote. It's called Simple.
Driving home, we found nothing wrong. I'm here to say love ain't blind. Being with you, it makes me strong and weak at the same time. We follow the stars along till the end of time. If we could, and it's all been so simple, so good. No, I'm not looking there. There's nothing there left to see. Dreams are made in the here and now. All the hurt and despair. Ooh, pain, I know. Tonight it seems all the days are for us. All for us. Yes, I see so simple, so good. Ooh, oh, 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 yeah. Ooh, oh, oh, yeah. You know how I feel about you now, don't you? You got me saying, ooh, oh yeah, alright. You got me saying, ooh, oh yeah. Well, don't you believe in yourself? You got the world at your feet. And it won't ever do you wrong. You can find shelter in me, oh yeah. It's follow the stars along till the end of time. Let's wake up, ooh, I'm saying now. It's something so simple, so good. Oh yeah, alright. I said it, ooh, it's something so simple.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Hey.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you. This has been fun.
I can't say anything but wow.
Yeah, seriously.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you all so very much for tonight. I really, really appreciate you all so much being here, and thanks for having me. And John, thank you. And James, thank you so much for all your help and introduction into this fabulous world. Thank you.
You're most welcome.
Okay.
I think any singer-songwriter on the face of the planet, definitely needs to listen to this hangout, because Lisa, beyond a shadow of a doubt, you bring you are definitely someone who stands on their own. You know, you create your journey, you embrace independence, and definitely you allow creativity. And that's something that we need to learn. We need to learn from you. We need to watch you. We need to see you grow. We need to see you blossom. We need to be encouraged by who you are and what you stand for, because where you've come from and the things that you've drawn from life and how you communicate that through music is inspirational, and truly embrace that. And you need to understand that, because it impacts other people. And I seriously mean that when I say that, you know, other artists, other independent artists like yourself needs to listen to the whole hour and 3 minutes of this, because they will be enlightened, they will be encouraged, and they will know what it means to grab hold of a dream and move forward with that. Because I mean, as you know, you're out there on the grid and stuff, and you know that a lot of people just want things handed to them, and you're definitely not one of those types of people. You know, you're someone who sees something and goes for it, and embraces the fall as much as you embrace the praise. So, kudos to you. I'll stop, but
Wow,
I'm sorry.
James.
I'm just so infatuated with your brilliance. So thank you so much for being
Wow.
a friend and for enlightening us.
Thank you
Yeah.
for uplifting me. Thank you.
I just like to add too. I mean, as a musician, seeing you and hearing you play makes me want to go and write and play, which is really the best compliment I can give someone. I mean, it's inspiring. It makes me want to create too. So
That's so awesome. That's awesome. That's
Well,
great.
you give me hope that someday we will kill the auto-tune fad and we'll get back to real music.
Thank you.
Because real music is the heart of, what music is about. I get depressed when I turn on the radio and I hear some of the stuff that's popular. I get inspired when I listen to these hangouts and I hear real talent. I would like people like you to be the superstars.
Big
That's very
applause for
kind.
that.
That's very kind.
When I was young, I was born in the 70s. I'm dating myself here, but there was a
alright.
brief period when singer-songwriters were popular, and I grew up with, that music, and, I'd like that to come back into fashion, so.
I hear you. I grew up with the same. Yeah, I would love to see, I would love to see an artist like, maybe Staples. I know I keep drawing back from her, but I just can't explain what this woman emanates. It's overwhelmingly beautiful. She's in her 70s, and when she's up there, she's losing her mind. She's shaking her hands, and she's pulling the microphone way down. It's amazing. It's inspiring and hopeful. So I thank you very much.
Okay, so Lisa, we're hoping to see more and more of you on Google Plus. But where is the best place for everybody to find your music and to go and get your album?
LisaMarshallMusic.com. It's also in iTunes. If you just look up Lisa Marshall, it's on there. Both the albums are actually, and the last two songs I did are off my album Simple, and I don't have those physical CDs anymore. They're out of print for the time being, just because I had to get the other CD printed.
Okay, and is there anything you want to say to all the people watching on YouTube or watching on Google Plus that couldn't get in the Hangout? Because you got a full Hangout here. It's standing room only.
Oh, wow. I just want to say I just feel so blessed and honored to have you all here, and I thank you so very much for this opportunity to be in front of you tonight, and thank you, John, so much for all that you do with the music, and James, my friend, again, I can't shout enough kudos to you, so thank you so much. Your music is beautiful, and you're a beautiful soul, and you have been nothing but kind and helpful and uplifting me, and I hope I can return that as much.
Okay. Well, Lisa, thank you for joining us. It was a pleasure having you here, and you are amazing.
Thank
And
you.
everything James said, and Tim said, and Monica said, 100% agree with. You are very amazing and very inspirational, and it was a pleasure listening to you tonight.
It was my pleasure. Thank you, John.
Okay, and that's the show for tonight. Everybody tune in Friday night at 9 p.m. We'll have Lizzie Spit on, and she'll be talking about the tour she's going to do on Google+. She'll be playing in different time zones, so you can all check her out.
That's cool.
So tune in Friday night at 9 p.m. That'll be our next show. We have a lot of exciting shows coming up this month. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday we have a show scheduled this month. We got concerts scheduled all month long on Saturday nights. So we got a lot of fun stuff planned for 2013. 2012 was a great year, and 2013 is going to be even more exciting.